I'm Roger Milliken. On my professional side, I'm a forest land manager. I'm responsible for 100,000 acres of forest land in eastern Maine. And avocationally, I am been very active in conservation, and I most recently became chair of the Nature Conservancy Board. A pioneer is somebody who recognizes and acts from the place that we're all related, and we need to be working in the service of honoring and protecting all of life. I think the crises that we're facing with climate, if we can get beyond the noise and the static that special interests have been so effective at generating, there is that sense to take a hard look at what we need to do together to sustain the natural systems that support our life. So there may be the crisis side that's pushing us, that the old ways are obviously not working. And then there's all the elements that are being talked about in this conference of new ways of thinking, new ways of acting, taking insights from nature, recognizing that we have a fundamental relationship, and so there's that positive change that's going to have an impact. I mean, I feel like we're at a tipping point, and the Conservancy is talking about this a lot now, where humankind has been the force that has been destroying the natural world. We're at this point where we're becoming aware of that, and there's the potential now for humankind to reorient and be a force for restoration and protection of the natural world. And like so much of what we're feeling at this particular time, you know, it's like this, and we could go this way or we could go that way. You know, a key insight for me from my work is that the fundamental difference is whether your economics is short-term or long-term. You know, as we know, the root meaning of both economics and ecology comes from the Greek word for house and household. If we have a long-term focus to our economic house, it makes us behave differently and more in accord with the biological rates of return that happen in the natural world. If we make the mistake of looking too short-term, then we wreak havoc on the world. All the forces in the marketplace are forcing industry to take a short-term perspective. I mean, we'll see. We're in a period of time where everything we took for granted that was stable appears to be up for grabs, whether we're looking at climate or whether we're looking at the financial markets. But there's been this mania, particularly of late, to be producing very high returns. And from the perspective of somebody who's spent my life working with the forest systems of Maine, I mentioned biological rate of return earlier. You know, there's a great generosity of the natural systems, but in economic terms, we're looking at a sort of 4% or 6% rate of return. If people are promising their investors that invest in this forest land, and you know, the history has been a 12% rate of return, then you've got a major conflict between what's really just a concept of what an acceptable rate of return is on the economic side and the biological reality. And so, you know, the unfortunate fact is that all the pressure in the financial system, at least till now, has been for higher returns, and you know, all this focus on efficiency. What's efficiency? It's how do you get the most output for the least amount of input over the shortest period of time, which spells disaster for the natural world. Pioneers is a wonderful and effective effort at raising consciousness, at building community, at highlighting positive new approaches, critical analysis of what's driving our world, a range of possible choices to bring restoration. And you can feel it in the energy in the room here, the sense of kinship and excitement and possibility and commitment to move forward. And you know, those are powerful things. I think the real question is, how do we get people to pay attention and to look beyond a particular view of self-interest, a particular sense and fear of sacrifice, to perhaps recognize that at its root, sacrifice means to make holy. How do we make more whole our relationship to the natural world. But that involves popping out of the the selfish me first perspective, whether it's a national perspective or a corporate perspective or an individual perspective. And we can feel how the feedback is increasing about the toxic nature of the me first attitude imposed on the world. And hopefully that will inspire a change of behavior. But of course, it can also inspire fear, which instead of leading to change, can lead to a stubborn refusal to look at anything other than our self-interest. And I only hope that 20 years from now we can look back and say, that's what it was that caused the tip to happen.